I'm reporting to you from the convention going on, the Cattlemen's Convention in San Antonio, and with us, Colin Woodall, who is a Vice President of Government Affairs with the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. And Colin, here we are again. Again, you guys are busy again with issues again. Job security.
It is job security, but at the same time, there are some pretty important issues that we're working on. Just trying to make sure that we can allow our members to keep doing what they're doing. That's producing high-quality beef. And even though we did have some pretty significant changes in the makeup of Congress, and we have a new Congress that is controlled by the Republicans on both sides, it doesn't mean that the fights are any easier. And so that's got us busy already in 2015 and will continue to keep us that way for the rest of the year.
Well, let's talk about some of the issues, and I know that you guys have them.
We do. We have to start with EPA. The Environmental Protection Agency continues to be one of the biggest challenges that we have in Washington, D.C. And, of course, one of our biggest priorities has been trying to defeat the Waters of the United States proposal. And, of course, to remind everybody, this is the one where EPA is going to change the Clean Water Act by removing the term navigable and basically open up every body of water out there to regulation by both EPA and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. It's going to be a huge land grab, and if you have any water on your operation, you're going to be covered. So we have to make sure that we continue to push back against them.
Now, of course, the Republican control in Congress, how does that change anything, or does it?
I think what it does is we will see Congress pass much more legislation, but it doesn't break the gridlock that we've had in Washington, D.C. It just shifts it. In the past, the gridlock has been between the House and the Senate. Now it's probably going to be between Congress as a whole and the president. So we'll really have to see just how successful the Republicans are in getting legislation passed that the president will actually sign. Because if he vetoes legislation, even though the House probably has a better chance of overriding that veto than the Senate does, it could shape up for some interesting conversations between the Hill and the White House.
Now, WOTUS is not the only issue that EPA is working on or has out there. They seem to have a whole bunch.
You know, they do, whether it's greenhouse gas regulation, continued action against CAFOs, concentrated animal feeding operations. They are just hitting us, whether it's air, whether it's water. Soils in particular is a big discussion point for EPA right now. They are going to continue to be a problem for us. And this is going to be an issue regardless of who's in the White House. When you look back at our history with EPA, it has been a challenged one. We continue to have the conversations with them about what we can do to just maintain the open lines of communication, but ultimately we're going to find ourselves on the opposite side of the table from them 9 times out of 10.
Right. Other issues, if there were no EPA, life would be boring but maybe pleasant. What would be at the top of the priority list if EPA wasn't out there?
You know, outside of Waters of the United States, we are still working on the dietary guidelines for Americans. This is the old food guide pyramid that most people remember. Now it's called the My Plate. But the dietary guidelines for Americans basically is what the government recommendations are for people to have a healthy diet. And every 5 years they have to be reviewed and revised, and every 5 years it's usually a fight to keep beef in the plate. This year is no different. So we continue to see folks that push back against not only beef but all meat proteins, and we expect the release of the Scientific Advisory Committee's recommendations probably here the middle of February, and from what we understand they may be recommending that Americans eat much less meat overall, and that's concerning to us.
And I guess the term that we are using is sustainable.
Sustainability and environment have been a buzzword within this process. You know, one of the things that Congress told USDA through the appropriations process was they needed to get back and focused on the nutritional value in this process, not just environment sustainability. So we're hoping that they will take that to heart. And if they do, I think that will help us make sure that beef is in the center of the plate when the final recommendations come out sometime later this year.
Colin, you'll be giving all sorts of reports here and talking to folks, and I know that the regulatory crunch is something that everybody's concerned about. But what's the kind of the general attitude out there in terms of anything that we may have accomplished as you look back over the last year? Do you have any trophies?
Yeah, we do. We have quite a few. I think one of the ones that we're most proud of is our ability to convince Secretary Vilsack not to move forward on his second beef checkoff checkoff under the 96 Act. We were very happy with that. We were also very pleased that we were able to prevent any listing of the sage grouse under the Endangered Species Act, and what that means for us to continue to push to have overall reform in the Endangered Species Act. We had some great wins on public lands ranching, which is a portion of our industry that a lot of folks don't think about, but they have their own unique sets of challenges because they are running on federally owned land. We've been able to extend the time of their permits from 10 years to 20 years, which is a huge win. And then, of course, at the end of the year, we were able to get Section 179 expensing put back in place, bonus depreciation, and also the conservation tax incentives. So some pretty good wins at the end of 2014.
Colin, you mentioned the beef checkoff, and I'm sure that that's going to be one of the big topics here. And we continue to try to come together as an industry and come up with something that works. Give us the status report.
Well, the groups that are working together under the Beef Checkoff Enhancement Working Group, which includes NCBA, are continuing to look at different ways that we can change the 1985 Act to make it more inclusive and to make it more efficient. And once we do that, everybody is of the agreement that once we agree, then we can go forward and get an additional dollar of funding. Because we have to remember that that dollar that was passed in 1985 does not have the buying power today that it once did. But we still have a lot of the same challenges of research, promotion, and new product development. So we're excited about the opportunity to make some changes I think will be good for producers and provide the resources to check off we need to be successful.
And before we let you go, just anything else that we should have said that was on the top of your plate?
Well, we continue to look at trade. Trade is extremely important for us. It's going to be a big topic here in San Antonio. Trade is worth about $300 in the value of each marketed head right now. That's big money for us. It's about maximizing the value of this carcass. So we're going to work with Congress to get Trade Promotion Authority passed, so that way the president has the ability to negotiate these trade deals for us. We're going to pass the Trans-Pacific Partnership to make sure that we can increase access to Japan and ultimately try to fix country of origin labeling so that we don't have retaliation from Canada and Mexico against our products.
We appreciate the update. Been visiting here with Colin Woodall. He's Vice President of Government Affairs with the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, and I'm reporting to you from the Cattle Industry Convention going on in San Antonio. From the meeting for the Rural Radio Network, I'm Mike LePorte.